Alrighty, let's look at a thing. This is the Curt Spectrum Brake controller. Do a little bit of an unboxing and talk about what we're going to do for the Xterra with this puppy. So first off, it is brake controller first and foremost. When you hook up a 7-pin connector on the back of your rig for towing a large trailer, you use a brake controller to control the brakes on the secondary item that you're towing behind you. This one here specifically, I chose it because the only thing that you have on your dashboard is a tiny little button, and everything else is hidden up underneath, so you're not taking up a whole bunch of dash real estate with a big old control box. So that's the control box that goes back up underneath behind the dashboard, and all the logic and control happens inside of there. And this is the remote button that you use to control all the functionality of the controller itself. So that puppy is going to need to be mounted to the dashboard of the Xterra, and we'll get to that in a moment. But first, let's just kind of check everything that's in there. Control box, the button, mounting plate and some mounting hardware, as well as the terminal lead ends for the controller itself. Those come not connected so that you can pass them through the hole in the mounting plate, depending on whether you want to drill a hole in your dash or not. So that's what that is for. Some warranty information and some information on how it works, and that's about all she wrote. Let's get to installing it in the car. If we look at the dash, we're pretty up close here, but there's not too much room on this side except for this spot here or here. There is a piece of metal behind that one, so that one wouldn't work too well. So what I've decided is to put it right over here on this side next to my other button clusters. Over here we've got the mirror controls, clutch start cancel, and then an extra pod right here, but that one's too small for this brake controller, so we're gonna mount the plate right here, and I'm gonna show you how to take the trim off. Highly recommend that if you're gonna be doing any trim work that you get yourself a trim removal tool kit. These are soft plastic, non-marring plastic, so you're not gonna scratch up your vehicle. A whole bunch of just little crowbars and little spatula type guys that you can get in and pop loose various different components on the trim. Alright, so the first part that we need to take off is this floorboard, because there is a bolt up in behind here that connects this guy. There's one bolt up underneath on this side back here by your ODB2 sensor, and then the other one's hidden right up here underneath the trim. So I'll get that taken off, and we'll take a look. While you have this off, another one of those recommendations: get your vacuum out and clean everything out inside there. Okay, now that we got that trim removed, you can see right up in here, let me get this in focus, and the ISO, okay. Right here, you can see we've got that one screw right there, and then if we look up underneath, there's another one right here next to the ODB2 sensor. Take those two out, and we'll pull this whole console off, making sure to be careful with the wire connections. Don't pull too hard. in one of your non-marring plastic pry bars. And you can see the buttons here in the back are just held on by a little clip. You just press down on these little guys right here. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. But you just press in the little button and you can pop those guys out. I'm gonna have to set the camera down to do this one, and then I'll come back once that's done. Alrighty, we've got that gauge cluster out, and we'll start marking her off and place the holes right here where we need them to go. And if we take a look how that sits in there, one thing we got to be wary of is that guy is sitting right in front of this bar right here. So we got to make sure we place it in a location that's not going to be drilling into that and having that behind it. And now that I'm looking at that, I'm going to have to move it over a little bit closer to the center console so that it's not directly underneath this tab here. And that's just one of those things, just plan out your holes and measure twice, cut once. Alrighty, so after some very careful measurements, I found that just right on this side over here is going to work out great, and this guy can go 90 degrees in any way, and the notches on the back will line up. So if you need to put this screw through in any direction to miss something, you have options of where you can place it by 90 degrees each different direction. This is one of those moments where RTFM is a good idea. It recommends that you use a 5/16 drill bit for drilling in figure 1. .5/16" drill bit. Use a razor blade, clean off that extra little bit of plastic, and we have our first hole drilled. Okay, so that was our initial point for the well nut to go through, which is this little rubber coated guy. Pops up through the back, and then this guy will go over the top of it, and we can screw it into place to hold it down while we align it for the drilling of the hole for the centerpiece. Actually, we probably don't even need to put that all the way on there, just get it into place and mark the hole with our scribe. Get it nice and centered, and right there will be the center of the hole. Now we can pop that guy out of the way, and we'll drill our second hole right here. Razor blade to clean up the edges. Nice and clean on the backside. And now we can get everything mounted together. So one of the great things about a well nut that they put down in there is you just push the rubber piece through into the back, and then when you screw it down, there's a little piece in there that pulls forward and causes the plastic to expand on the backside. That way, if you're drilling into a location where you can't remove the dash panel, you can stick that well nut down through and it will expand out on the backside without having to get to the backside to secure the nut. So we'll just go ahead and tighten that down and watch it as it expands. And that guy is nice and secure, is not going anywhere. The next part that we're going to do is actually putting the button into place. I want the lights on the top, so I will feed the cable through the center hole. line it up with the notches and click it into place. All 4 little points along there will ratchet it right down. So now that we got the cable in behind, we're going back to the car and we will get the control box installed. The next part on the list, we've got a bunch of zip ties, the brake controller head unit, and a adapter for the brake control harness, which will connect into this guy right back in here, which is the connector to the brake terminals in the back, which we have the 7-pin connector hooked up to. Go ahead and plug these guys in, and I'll just put it in time lapse and you can watch. Alrighty, that looks like a pretty good location. The only thing that is important on this install, it can go sideways, it can go upside down, you can put it anywhere that you want. It just has to be securely mounted. Otherwise, the system won't be able to calibrate with the motion of the vehicle. And if it's just dangling back behind here, your brakes will be kicking off all the time in the back, or they just won't work at all. Alrighty, next step. Bring the panel back. Alrighty, so the actual next steps, get a little bit of a break and go into the air conditioning because we need to wire up the end of the terminal after passing that cable through on the panel. So let's refer to our manual, take a look at the wiring diagram, or more so the picture. We've got from left to right, white, green, red, blue, black, red. And it looks like they're going into 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 1 and 8 are left empty. So let's wire it up. White, green, brown, blue, black, red. Say it a few times, just make sure that you have it correct, and we will set these puppies into the terminal. So upside down, this piece facing down is how it all goes in. Just double check and verify, and yes, down, left is 1. Okay, we can start hooking this all up. Alrighty, the sun has caught up with me and the lighting is really horrible and it's getting extremely hot out here right now, so I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of the reassembly of the trim off camera, but there's one last thing that I wanted to talk about before I plug it all together. If we take a look right up in here, there's 2 little switches right here, 1 and 2. One thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to switch number 2 to the off position, but leave number 1 on. Number 1 means that when you're using manual brake control, the lights on your trailer will enable. The brake lights will turn on when you actually use the manual control. Number 2 sets a limit on how much power you can put on the
brake controller to only 50%. If you turn that off, it lets you do 100% on manual, and you can lock the tires on your trailer. That's something that's personal preference if you know what you're doing. I recommend to put it on full power control so that if you do need to lock up your trailer brakes, you can, but it's up to you for manual control. Alright, I'm gonna get everything reconnected and back on. We'll take a look at it later this evening once the light dies down a little bit and it's a little bit cooler.
Alrighty, it's been a couple weeks now actually, but we're back to it, and a random button appeared over there to the left. We'll talk about that one later. But we'll go ahead and fire up the car, and you'll see it firing off a bunch of green. That is the calibration mode. It's ramping up, looking to see if the trailer's connected. I don't have a trailer connected right now, so it's going to go into a blue flashing light. It indicates with a blue flashing light that it's disconnected. There's nothing on there, so check your trailer connection if you get the blinking blue. And that's going to blink for quite a while, so I'll fast forward this. Alrighty, that's coming to an end there, and then I'm going to hit my foot on the brake, and when you actually manually hit the brake with your foot, it just goes solid blue. Now let's take a look at some of the functions. Tap it once, and this will get you to the output, so how hard the brakes are actually going to be on the trailer when you press it. Then when you click it again, it goes to sensitivity mode, and then you press it one more time, and this is the level of brightness. There's one more mode that I didn't show while I was clicking through the buttons here, which is the manual mode. If you just hold the button down, the brakes engage, and you can turn manual mode from there to set the brake engagement rate for the manual as well. But that's the Spectrum Brake controller. Thanks for watching.